Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Dante and Virgil Musings podcast. Today, our topic is on a video by Leo Gura, and it was called When Does the Left Go Too Far? A pretty interesting video. I would like to know what you think about it, Brandon.
Hey Chase, thank you very much. So another long video. Um, so this is we're covering part two of, as Chase mentioned, when does the left go too far? Um, I must say, I thought honestly when I watched it, I think it was better than like the first part in some respects, but I will admit that the first, like, I know like the first hour it was basically talking about like a lot of the social issues. Um, One of them, of course, being about LGBTQ plus. Also, I found it very interesting how, or at least a blunder from leftists, that minorities and immigrants from third world countries were like conservative, and also the progressives tend to, demonize neoliberals and centrists, and apparently they label them as right-wing extremists for whatever reason. So that was probably, if I recall, like about like the first hour. And then I know like towards the end of the video, it started getting a lot. It started getting better because he was really criticizing, the left for acting like, elite, intellectuals, as as though like they know how, um, society should be run, or how, government, should be run, um, without really like doing, like, it's kind of funny, like, I think he used the term like snowflakes or something like that, and how, leftists, don't take accountability for their actions. They like shit talk with their friends, um, and pretty much don't really have any like strong or positive, like, conservative views, or conservative like habits, or conservative, values. Sorry, yeah, that's the word, values. And they don't, and so I know that was like probably close to the last. I should probably pin the link of the video. Hello, Ivy. Would you like to join this discussion? Or are you okay with just listening to us? So, I guess we can take a step back and kind of go through each of the major points, at least that I took notes on. But yeah, those are my views so far. I did like at least the end of the video overall. Chase, what are your thoughts?
So, I have some notes down and nothing too specific, but I just want to point out in the beginning, like in the first hour, he's saying like conservatives are a majority of the population and like there's a lot more conservatives than liberals would like to admit. But then like halfway through, probably an hour and a half in, 2 hours in, he's saying half the population is conservatives and half the population are Republicans. So I just, does he even have continuity in his own arguments?
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, yeah, it's interesting. You said the majority of the population, you said, is conservative, and then like tries to break it down. I don't know, but that's good that you were able to, um, point that out. Considering, I think, he talks for like 3 hours into the video. I mean, which I think is still incredible, and I guess, yeah, sometimes, mistakes like that happen. Have you noticed this like in his other videos, or is it mostly just in his political videos that sometimes he appears to be, inconsistent with his arguments?
I just noticed it in this video because he was like bringing up how like even the minorities, like the black people and the Mexicans, even I don't even know if he said that, but just like the minorities happen to be conservative as well. And he's like saying that's a majority of the population rather than the liberals. But then he's saying like half of the people are conservatives and the other half are liberals. But then where do the moderates come in and the progressives? I don't know. It was confusing to me. Does he even know? Like, I just have a lot of problems with this video in particular. So if you want to say anything, feel free to do so.
Okay, so the way that I got the way, if maybe he was inconsistent towards like the later half of the video, the way I understood was that I know he tried to break it up. That there was I'm not going to even use percentages, even though maybe I should, but I know he was trying to break it up by mentioning about the extreme left and then the extreme right, and he said those were in the minority, and that he said that the moderates, I guess, made up the majority, or made up maybe like it would be like 20 60 20, right? That's probably
Yeah, I
his
agree with that.
percentage. Yeah, I think that's what he was trying to emphasize. But the fact that he mentioned it was 50-50, I don't. Do you remember? I don't remember him saying that. Or maybe he did say it, or maybe he thought maybe he thought the leftists are the ones that get confused and think that it's like 50-50 across the board, which obviously is not the case, because I know that the leftists, like the extreme progressives, are the ones that bash on the moderates and mistake them for being the right wing, which of course is not the case. They just that's just a blind spot from them. I mean, which I think that actually makes sense. So I wanted to, because you didn't mention the quote, I just wanted to see what your comment was about this quote he put in the beginning of the video, which says, "So much left-wing thought is a kind of playing with fire by people who don't even know that fire is hot." And that was from George Orwell. Did you think that would be a good quote that you put in the video, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't really have an opinion on that. Like, I can't really say. Like, I'm not in the mind of the conservative or the mind of the liberal. I just prefer to be non-political in this.
Okay. All right. So, well, I guess that we're discussing, when is the left? Hey, should we invite people over?
Yeah,
Because I think
definitely.
this would be interesting. All right, I'm gonna see if I can ping you guys in here. I mean, I took some notes, but if you guys want to talk about just what your views on left wing or leftist politics, feel free. Let me see if I can invite people in here. Actually, no, I'm probably doing the wrong thing. Hold on.
Well, if you want to raise your hand, we'll
Oh wait, I
invite you
can't
up.
do that. Oh yeah,
Wait,
you're
what?
the. Can
I
you
I
make?
have
Can
to
you?
do it? All right,
Yeah,
I
you have to
haven't
do it
seen
because you're the
anyone raise their hand yet.
moderator. You're the green. Unless you can make me a moderator.
Yeah.
Yeah, you.
Cool.
All
But
right
I
now.
haven't seen anyone raise their hand yet, so I'm just gonna say what I picked out of the video. So Leo's
Okay.
basically saying that if you don't have money, you shouldn't participate in politics, which just
Mm-hmm.
like proves my point even more that money is the voting mechanism.
Hello, Anthony. Oh, hello, nerders. How you guys doing?
Hey guys.
Doing fantastic.
It's good to hear. I guess since you guys are here, and again, welcome. Usually, we do not get such a huge turnaround. I mean, we've usually, in most of our podcast. It's just the two of us, and we're just kind of like, filling the space, filling the void for about an hour. So, where do you guys stand politically? What are your views? Who wants to go first to talk about that?
Well, it seems like you guys were referencing some video material that I am not familiar with. So, can you give me some context into, what this conversation is and how it started?
Okay, so let me see. Hey Chase, should I ping the video? And then we'll see if we can kind of.
Yeah, but I could also describe it to you. So basically, we watched this video of this guy explaining why leftists don't understand conservatives and like why they're basically dumb and they haven't done enough research into conservatism. So I'm wondering, do you stand anywhere politically and do you have any experience with leftist ideology?
It's safe to say that everybody sort of stands somewhere, although I don't necessarily believe that everybody would have to classify themselves under traditional terms such as leftist or liberal or conservative or libertarian, etc. So I don't know. That kind of question is a little vague. Do you have a stance? Of course, everybody does. Do I have any experience with leftist ideology? Do you mean experience as in adherence to, or do you just mean familiarity with?
Yeah, if you know any leftists, like the video is just 3 hours long, so obviously it's just gonna be covering all of the topics, but he's basically just saying leftists don't understand certain things about conservatives. And I don't agree with this video, like where this person is coming from in the video, his name's Leo Gura, where he's coming from, he's very polarized in his argument. So I'm coming from a non-polarized argument. I would just want to know if you had any experience, if you can give any experience that you have politically.
I suppose I'm still a little vague on the term experience politically, as in, do I research or do I encounter politics? Do I watch the news? Like, what type of experience are you trying to? What type of experience are you referring to?
Really anything, Brandon. If you want to like bring in ideas that were from the video, feel free to do so. But like the video was so broad that it was like leftist ideology in general, and like what what do you think is the difference between liberalism and conservatism? Because he's saying that liberals are kind of dumb for saying that conservatives are stupid for saving their money when actually liberals could learn something from conservatives for saving their money. Again, this is highly general, like just that's the way the video went. So like if you have any arguments in your head or if you have anything to say about liberalism, feel free to do so.
I think I'll sit on the sidelines for a little while longer until I get a stronger grasp as to a more specific nature of the question. Because obviously, you can go on a random tangent about liberalism as a concept or conservatism as a concept, but I don't necessarily think that would be a productive start to any conversation. If there's a specific question or a specific topic, I would more than happy uh, dive into that.
Okay,
However,
so
I
what do you
have not
think
watched
too far means?
in the context of liberals going too far.
Yes.
Yes. When do
I
you
think
think?
that the
Yeah,
idea
go
of
ahead.
going too far in general is at the use of force against another.
So you think it's at the use of force against the other? What
Going
about?
too far, if you have engaged in the use of force, um, that is not an act of um, like self-defense. Not necessarily, obviously, physical force. That's not the only type of force, but all force tends to work under the underlying notion that physical force is an option. So even political force is it is ultimately an act that has the underlying notion that if you do not comply, there's physical force that will be used to force compliance.
Could liberals also go too far by being too passive?
I'm not quite sure what the insinuation of the question is, because going too far toward what?
That's also a good question for me, because I don't know what they're going too far toward either. I don't see how liberalism defines
What do you
people.
think from this two-part series, Chase? Since we watched the video, that you think Leo is trying to allude to as a main theme, or as like a political lesson for the left to think about?
So, Leo is generally talking to people who subscribe to the leftist ideology, saying that you shouldn't discredit all of conservative ideas, and you shouldn't discredit moderate people by labeling them as conservatives. Like, he's saying that leftists label Joe Rogan as conservative when he's more moderate, or Sam Harris or Jordan Peterson. These people can have rational conversations, and he's saying leftists go too far by saying none of what they say matters because they're painting these people as conservative. That's what I gather so far.
I mean, I think that's an intellectually faulty premise. That's sort of painting a broad brush over somebody that is classified essentially as an enemy. I don't think that there's any sort of intellectual conversation that can happen if you're engaging with somebody that is using such a broad brush and not actually discussing individual ideas.
Right. He is painting the broad brush. I'm trying to basically distill what he said in this 6-hour series, which I'm probably doing very poorly, but this is the best I can do to my understanding.
Yeah, again, like this two-part series is about, like, 3 hours each, or 6 hours in total, pretty much going over a wide variety of topics that he feels that he's pointing out biases, from the left, so that to the point where, because I know, okay, so you, Chase, that Leo is about this whole model of development evolution called spiral dynamics, right?
Yeah, he references that a lot.
So I think that is another theme, or at least what he's trying to do is he's trying to point out biases from the left, so that they can essentially evolve or progress through the spiral dynamics model. And Anthony, I know that's going to confuse you even more, because what the hell is, like, the whole spiral dynamics model? So again, it's hard to get some background about this, because we've watched, well, I've watched like tons of videos on Actualizers.org, and it just goes over a ton of theory and concepts and whatnot. But essentially, you know, the point that I took out of this two-part series is him pointing out, liberal and progressive issues that are demonizing, or spreading, hate and demonizing the right-wing party as well as moderates, and basically leading to a, I guess, political war, so to speak. I mean, yeah, you're right, Anthony. It could also very well they could go too far in the general sense about becoming violent. And but I can't really think of any examples, unless you can, Chase, of when the left had actually, like, committed riots and violence. Do you recall or know of any such events?
Personally, I don't know how ideologies could do such a thing. Individuals themselves, no matter where they are on the spiral dynamics, perform these actions, and like, to say someone is a rightist or a leftist, it's just like, it just doesn't make sense to me. But if that's the way Leo wants to take this video that he made, he's feel free to do so. I don't really agree with this concept of saying like liberals are all like this and conservatives are all like that. There's more nuance. Like, people are individuals, and just because they might save money here or want something for free doesn't mean they're like exactly liberal or exactly conservative. And to say that a whole ideology is on a single part of the spiral dynamics is kind of silly, because people could be up on the spiral but also subscribe to leftist ideology. So it's like, ideologies are more like covering the whole spectrum of spiral dynamics rather than just like a single part. But he's saying leftism is only a single part of the spiral, so if you're in that part of the spiral, you're also a leftist. That's kind of, I don't really agree with that.
Yeah, and that seems like an overgeneralization in order to easily strawman an opponent. You can sort of characterize them with beliefs that they may not hold simply because in some portion of that model, someone on that general side holds this position. And so, since you are being grouped in with them, you also now have to bear responsibility for that opinion, even though you don't hold it. That just seems, inappropriate to actually have any sort of intellectual discourse that's going to achieve anything.
I agree with you. So I wanted to ask you a question, Anthony. I just forgot. Hold on a second.
Let's see. Um, well, I guess one of the topics I know for like the first hour of the video, he brushed upon a lot of the, I guess, the social issues. The first topic was about LGBTQ plus. What are you guys' thoughts on LGBTQ plus? Do you hold any biases against them, or do you think liberals or progressives advocate it too strongly? What's your opinion on that?
So I know I hate to sort of be a broken record here, but um, the issue I suppose I have with the line of questioning is that they're very broad questions. I mean, so for example, if you were to ask me, what do you think about this specific policy that is, related to LGBTQ plus or whatever, that I would probably be able to answer as long as I have some familiarity with said policy. However, if you're asking, a broad question like, what do you think about this entire subcategory, and do you have a general bias towards it? That's a hard question to answer, first and foremost, because I believe that every person holds some sort of bias, and we all have to hold ourselves accountable for trying to be as critical as we possibly can of our own beliefs in order to weed out those biases. But that's not to say that you're not going to not have that bias. So then the question simply becomes, what do you think about this entire subcategory? I Well, I would have to have a more specific question. What do I think about what about it? Do you want to know? Do I support like gay rights? That's a specific question. Do I
Yes,
that I would be able to
let's go
answer.
with that. Let's go with the more specific questions. Well, yeah, do you support gay rights? And how do you feel about other people, individuals that don't support gay rights?
I think that individuals should be free to express themselves however they wish to express themselves, up to the point where it interferes with someone else's rights. So, if you wish to express yourself as being gay, then do so. It's not harming anybody but yourself. Okay, hold on. That's you. That's not quite right. I'm going to rephrase that. It's not harming anyone, so it should not be there should be no legislative limits on it. There should only be legislative limits on something that causes harm to someone else. So I have no issue with somebody that chooses to be gay or bisexual or any of those things, because my stance is essentially that you're free up to the point where you begin to interfere with someone else's rights. Thus, kind of going back to what I said in the beginning with the use of force. So once you start legislating, like, some sort of speech mandate, then it becomes a problem, because now you're forcing a paradigm onto others that don't share your paradigm, which I believe is wrong. However, I do think that each individual should be free to act out in accordance with their own paradigms without interference.
That was fucking well said. I agree with everything Anthony said. Just to the beginning, y'all asked where we fall in the political sphere. I'm a centrist, so
Okay.
my questions to me are going to be very interesting. You're not going to get. I'm going to be kind of like Anthony. You're going to get a bunch of. You need to be a little more specific, because, yeah, I I find things that I like on both sides, which puts me in the middle. So
Right, and I'm not trying to be, difficult when I'm asking for specifics, but it's kind of like if I were to ask you, what do you think of physics? That question's way too broad. You're going to be like, okay, where do I even start? What do you talk? What is that question? So I would need to ask you a very specific question in relation to the field of physics or the specific physics problem that you want further information on, or that I want further information on. So that's kind of why I'm pushing back a little bit on the line of questioning.
and then I'll answer the LGBTQ question. And the other questions I don't remember because I was driving home now. But
No, that's fine. No, it's okay.
well, I really don't need to answer because, like I said, Anthony, he took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, okay. Great stuff so far. It seems like you guys are very centrist, so that gave me a better context to ask questions now. So I was wondering, this was brought up in the video, do either of you think poor people should or should not be allowed to vote?
Is that a general enough question, or does it need to get more broad?
Fuck for even asking that question. I don't even want to answer. I don't want to answer because I don't want to answer.
That's a strange question, yes. But I actually was going to say before you asked the question, I do have an appointment at 5:30, which is in approximately 2.5 minutes. So I won't be able to continue the conversation beyond a couple of minutes from now. As far as, do you believe poor people should not be able to vote? I think that's a ridiculous question. First off, if we live in a nation where individuals have the right to vote based off of citizenship, then the right to vote is based off of citizenship. It's not based off of your financial status. So the question itself seems to be either aimed at creating some sort of specific narrative towards the answer, or it just seems kind of ill-informed in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. So basically, Leo is saying, like, if you don't own an apartment, you shouldn't participate in politics.
He actually
Yeah, he actually said that.
Oh yeah, right, because he was the one that was saying oh yeah, complaining about how like if leftists, oh yeah, I think he generalized too much about saying that like like progressives were like lazy, and they were just some like I don't know, like nerds or whatever, like just talking like politics in like in an apartment or something like that. And he was like, yeah, you need to like if you don't get basic like personal development needs or whatever done, then you have no. He's like you should not know have no right, but it would be a bad idea for individuals that are not as developed to be activists and involved in politics.
Gentlemen, good luck with your podcast. I've got to jump for my appointment, so take care.
I'll hold the fort, Anthony.
Fantastic.
Thank you for your feedback, Anthony. Thank you.
See you, Anthony. All right, Nerdish, what's going on with you?
All right, so back to the poor people deal. You need to define poor, but actually you don't need to define it because every single person in the country, even those that have, I even want prisoners to vote. So even those who have lost their rights should still have the right to vote. But here the problem comes in. The reason why I didn't want to answer that is because I don't particularly care for ill-informed people voting. That bothers me. But I don't want to take that from them. That's not my place to say. There could have been something in their life that it doesn't matter. They can have their own reasons for voting. It doesn't matter. I believe everybody in America that is an American citizen, I will say that, that they should have the right to vote. Period. Well, above the age, I still like the age limit because kids need to focus on school.
Ivy, that's funny. You said you mean dumb people. Well, I don't know if that's the most politically correct. It's quite blunt to say. Yeah, Chase, you're going to say something?
Yeah, so according to Leo would paint Nerdish as a leftist because Nerdish is advocating for the right to vote once you reach a certain age. But Leo is saying, no, you have to own things first. Like, you have to have a certain amount of money first before you can participate in politics. And to me, that's completely wrong. I don't know what's wrong with this Leo guy. As far as I know, this video should be called "When Does Leo Go Too Far?" because he definitely went too far in overgeneralizing his ideas.
At least with that one. Let's continue. I like this line of question. Do you have every point that he's got? Because I'll go through everyone. And then I'd kind of like this. I'd almost like to start a room on centrists, just to fucking see, how many centrists there really are out there. The people who don't know that they're actually centrist and they think they fall on a certain side that they don't belong to.
Let's see.
Okay, so Brandon, do you have anything? Because I was gonna say, Leo says there's corrupt cops in Russia, but I believe there's also corrupt police in America.
Wasn't that like
So
it? Wasn't that wait? Wasn't that like from part one when we watched?
No,
the video?
he also said in part 2.
Oh yeah, he talked. Okay, yeah, he talked about what was that like like more than halfway through the video? He talked about the corruption with the police.
Yes.
I know he mentioned that. I guess also like in part 1, but I don't know. But again, that doesn't really have anything to do with how does the left go too far? Because what does police have to do with left versus right? Right. That's like its own separate thing. Correct.
Yeah.
So,
all of my answers are going to be boring because the middle is boring. Like the extremes are on the other sides, and and that's what gets attention. So my answer is actually going to be kind of boring, I think. But
we don't. it doesn't matter if it's boring. We just care about, the truth. That's why I'm glad that you asked such great, questions. Because again, we're trying to, do these podcasts. We're going into different avenues. We're like reading, Dante, Divine Comedy before, and then we do analysis videos. Some of these ones are on politics. It kind of helps us to check in with how little we know about it and what kind of questions we should ask. That's why it's great to have an audience and people to come in and say, these are things you need to probably think about a little bit. And it's also interesting too, having a different point of view about this guy's video, because who knows, maybe Leo may not be as in alignment with the truth that we think, but it's I guess it's hard to really say. I've watched tons of videos on him, and I personally think Chase, like, as much as I'm trying not to be so critical, I really do feel anytime he goes into a lot of these like political videos, I feel like he doesn't get his points across as well, especially when he's trying to generalize the left, make it seem like leftist politics go too far, and there's like on certain issues. LGBTQ was one issue, and I had some um, bizarre notes here. I mean, I could read to you the notes I had. Would that help? And I
Yeah,
can.
it definitely would help.
So should I just read to you like some of the thing, some of those? All right. So let me talk about the LGBTQ. And I put as a note, pushing these issues too far. And then I don't know, my notes are not the best, but I'll just read it down the list. So I put something about, okay, tolerant and kind of these groups, that's too vague. Let me move on. Man, okay. Oh, okay. This was him generalizing, and this is what the leftists would think. I think that's why I wrote this note like this. Mankind is closed-minded and do not understand why these groups exist. They find this type of living weird. Oh yeah, he's talking right. Living weird. People are attached to traditional norms of natural masculinity and femininity. Leftists argue leftists argue it's their problem or bigotry. However, people have not been exposed to non-binary genders. No one is automatically tolerant. It requires conditioning as a norm. And of course, he even puts in, like, it made one of his points, if I could, as a summary, people don't even know what LGBTQ means. I don't know about that. I think that's too general. Leftists need a more, this was kind of sneaky in sleight of hand. Leftists need a more subtle approach to bring people along to be accepting of LGBTQ. A minority group may not want to accept, but the left can convince moderates to help with elections and involve society with the Democratic Party. That was an interesting point. And do you want me to stop? You guys want to talk? You guys even want to comment about what I said? Just keep reading until I go through everything.
So far,
Already here, as far as I'm concerned.
What'd you say?
We already talked
Okay.
about this portion of it.
All right. I'll just read through these and then we'll go to the next talking point. Extreme left can appear narcissistic by pushing these LGBTQ issues, turn off others from even considering. All right, let's just move on to the next issue. Because it talks about like masculine femininity. Okay, whatever. Let's move on to the next one. The next point. Oh yeah. So the second point that he mentioned in this video, was about minorities and immigrants from third world countries, and making the assumption that I guess the majority of minorities and immigrants from third world countries are conservative. So that was his claim. And then he brings in.
Catch it. Yeah. Sorry, say it again. Sorry. For some reason, I didn't even hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah. No.
Okay, great.
For some reason, I wasn't listening. I should say.
Oh, okay, that's fine. That's fine. So the second point was about not appreciating that minorities and immigrants from third world countries are conservative. So, I mean, I think that's really it's quite a broad statement. I mean, because like I said, because he mentioned before that. I mean, I'm sure it's probably polarized and a lot and more nuanced, right? I'm sure maybe some minorities and immigrants are conservative. I'm sure some are quite liberal. But I'll give you.
No, the numbers are pretty. Yeah, that's a pretty good. It's all right to go ahead and make that assumption because I
Okay.
mean it is nuanced, but it's not that. I mean the numbers do add up.
Okay. Well, all right. So, okay. So Leo got something, at least factually correct with that. That's why I was just trying to play devil's advocate just to get the benefit of it. So here are some of the points I put in. There's like 5 of them.
But was it a But do I see that as a problem?
No, well,
Well, if I have an opinion on this, I
yeah,
don't
go ahead.
have. Yeah, it, people who come to America, if they are American citizens and they're allowed to vote, then they should be allowed to vote. I mean, they wanted to come here. They like it here. There's something about this place that drove them to be here, and they should get a say because they are here, living here. I mean, I don't, I don't think you have to be born here to vote. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. I'll say that. I wish that people that came here from other countries respected our other side, I should say, for its qualities. Um, but we see that it's not generally the case. Um, the numbers lean the other way pretty substantially. The rest of the world
All
wants
right.
a nicer America.
Right. Okay. I see. Let me just read some of these points here. He talked. I know as an example, he talked about the 2020 election. He mentioned about how 2020 Democratic nomination was won by Joe Biden instead of Bernie Sanders because because of the minority vote. In the South, they will vote for conservatives. I don't know. Not that many progressives or far leftists in the country. They're more moderates. This was sort of his own original take, so don't take my word for it. People vote on spiral state or the spiral dynamics model and vibe.
I don't know what that is, but is there a way that you can summarize it? Because if we're talking about, well, I don't know exactly because I can think of a spiral as in like monetarily.
It's a mod. It's essentially a mod. The spiral called great. He has like videos on. I'll try to summarize it as like a.
Can I give it a shot at summarizing it?
Go ahead, Chase. Go ahead.
So basically, don't think of it as a spiral, just think of it as a straight line. And there's segments on the line that are color coded. And basically, the first stage of development is like 0 to 1 years old, then 2 to 5 years old, then 5 to 7 years old. And these are like progressively going up until like 25 to 30 years old. And these are also like macro stages in society. So like a 5 to 7 year old would also be like a conservative or the United States. That's what Leo is trying to say when he mentions these stages in the spiral.
Is that clear enough for you, or do other questions you have about that?
That the different stages represent something along the lines, or if there wasn't enough description really to make heads or tails of what he was saying.
So they're just stages of development. Like a 14-year-old is less developed than an 18-year-old, not like physically, but in terms of their mental capacity, their morals, how they understand the world, their metaphysics.
Technically, in every way, it's safe to say. I would. It's fair. You're not going to find many 14-year-olds that are out competing 18-year-olds unless they're degenerates or something.
Chase, did you mention the colors of the spiral, or you think that would be like still too general? Or
Yeah, the colors are just the names of the stages. So like it doesn't matter. Like I don't have the colors memorized, but if you know the colors, feel free to share.
I think I
I'm
know
not
up
getting
to.
value out of what y'all are describing to me. Now, if we were talking about socioeconomical, like the way socioeconomics works, or its impact on society, uh, then yeah, I could go down that.
Okay,
But
so let's go. We don't
I,
have to go talk
some
about spiral
random.
dynamics since you're not as familiar, but I can give you some source material to read up
Let
about
me
it.
see if
Oh, go ahead.
I might be, if I can just Google it, then maybe spiral dynamics is what
Yeah,
you're trying to say.
Carl Graves, spiral dynamics. I can, if I remember, I think it goes from the least of. There's like beige. Then there's, I think there's purple, and it's like a pendulum that like swings back and forth um, between the perspective of like individual selfish development versus collective, hey, let's all like come together as a unit or come together as like a society or whatever. But it kind of swings back and forth. So you have like the first stage, which you can call beige, is like, when you're like pretty much born or a child. Then there's like stage purple, which swings to a collective stage where you were raised like by your family, and that you basically were raised in a tribe. Then it kind of swings back to the individual to stage red, where like the individuals become like, selfish, and they become like a kingpin of like a mafia, or or some kind of, or an overlord, or like the head chief of like, I don't know, like an empire or something like that. So very egocentric and selfish. And then that doesn't work out too well, because when you have a chieftain causing chaos and all that stuff, it swings back to the collective with, stage blue. And to try and summarize at least some aspects of stage blue, you could think of as one example like religion, like, like religious groups or religious societies where, oh god, yeah, Narish, you want to go? You want to keep going, or okay, cool. Yeah, so you have.
Brandon, would you say this is similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
That's what I'm more familiar with, and that makes sense to me. This other deal, it makes like I need the backstory because it doesn't. Yeah, it's not helping me out. Maslow's is and now that's something I can understand, and that does seem, maybe it might seem similar if it does apply.
I guess it's a more simplified model, Chase. Would you say Maslow's
Yeah,
hierarchy of needs
Maslow's
compared to?
hierarchy is like a simpler model. What spiral dynamics is trying to do is connect individual development with the development of the whole of humanity. So like a baby, a neo, I don't know, like a primordial human, I want to say. And as we grow up, we progress to the current society, which is like the top of the hierarchy of needs.
It's interesting. It's worth holding a room over.
Yeah, and actually, to be honest with you, Chase, maybe that should be maybe some future podcast. Like we should probably do some research about spiral dynamics and maybe even host rooms actually covering in detail what each of the stages represent and talking about the pros of it, limitations of it. Could there be obviously exceptions to the rules? What are the nuances? Just because again, it's like labeling. There's other models out there that Leo talked about too. That I think I watched them before, but it was like a ton of material and information to go through. And I think it would be interesting to kind of go through all of them just to see, the pros and cons, and if we can all how well it connects with human development. Is it even a good model at all to to track the progress of humanity? Where how could it improve? Things like that.
I think that's a great idea.
Cool. I'm glad, and yeah, we'll definitely need to do more research and probably try to. I'm glad, I'm glad again that you and Nerdish, Anthony and Nerdish are asking these, great questions as far as being more, specific. It gives us, food for thought to, really to ask better questions, more thought-provoking questions for podcasts like this. So thank you again. And so again, we kind of got off track here because we were talking about minorities and immigrants from third world countries, which I would imagine, Chase, would you say that from third world countries, which stage do you think they're like? Maybe like blue or orange? Probably blue, stage blue, right? Because they're probably.
I'm not too familiar with the stages, but
Okay, so like for.
I don't really want to categorize these
I know,
people in
I
the
know, I know. I'm
stages
just
if I don't
saying.
know
I
them.
know it's obviously more like nuance than that. So, um, I guess okay. Forget about the spiral dynamics model then, because screw that. Um, I think Nerds touched about this point before, but why do you think a lot of these immigrants from third world countries are quote unquote more conservative or or align more with traditional values, compared to progressive values?
I just believe that they see the wealth of America from the outside, right? The Lamborghinis that people are riding around in Florida, um, or in New York, or wherever the hell they're riding around in, right? And then the other thing they see is the jets flying overhead or the ships in the harbor. Um, that makes them nervous. We are very scary to the rest of the world. And we got our hands in everything. Staging little proxy wars. And we spend money to do it. That's something that should be said about that. But I think people that are from the outside coming over, regardless of whether they're third world or not, because not all of them are third world, right? Immigrants. Not all of them are third world country people. But all of them as a collective, all of the immigrants as a collective, they will vote Democrat because they want that money that those people are riding around in the Lambos, and they want people and they want the U.S. to stop spending the money fighting wars and give it to them. So it only makes sense. It's greed. There's people live greedy lives, and it's how you choose to be greedy that puts you on a side. My greed is just taking advantage of whoever's in power. That's why I'm a centrist.
All right, Chase, your thoughts on that?
I have to agree with Nerdish on this one. They do vote, but they would also like less American influence in their own country, which I can understand. So, I can't really say too much about this topic. If I don't know people individually, like, I don't really want to generalize. If I'm not saying from someone I know, it just doesn't fly with me.
I shouldn't have I shouldn't speak for others, but that's yes for an opinion, so I gave one.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Definitely brings a lot of spice to the room.
Absolutely. Chase, did you have any other notes? I don't know if we touched upon, because again, I don't think I was able to take notes for all parts of the video. Did we touch upon how, and again, this is another generalization from Leo, something about his other point in the video was about leftists demonize neoliberals and centrists. I guess the question is, okay, I got to be more broad. What exactly did they demonize them for? So let me see if I can remember from my notes. Let's see. They mistake moderates as right wing, which majority of the population is moderate. Moderates, okay, blah blah. Progressives criticize the center. Oh, criticize the centrist more. Yeah, but what do they criticize for? Leftists need to compromise with people from all walks of life. Okay, leftists would think. Oh, would think again. He talks about stage yellow. Would think stage yellow from Spiral Dynamics as a centrist. However, stage. Oh yeah. Then he tries to convince people. He also says that the left support the unrestricted, which for him is the left support the unrestricted, which for him is wrong. Hmm. Oh yeah, we don't. Oh, that would be. That's another topic for probably another day to talk about abortion and how that's like a leftist policy, our right to pro-life, pro-choice. I don't. I'm trying to remember. Chase, do you remember what other points Leo even talked about related to abortion?
I don't remember hearing about abortion. I only got up to 2 hours and 30 minutes, so I missed the last 30 minutes. I don't know if he said anything important in there.
Okay. Let's support the unrestricted abortion, which for him is wrong. Well, yeah. Oh yeah. Let me try to. Well, I don't know if that's an issue that they really go too far in. So I mean, basically, this whole point is that let's see, that's just what things stage yellow. However, stage yellow is different. Okay. Oh yeah, and then he's trying to push, his like 4-part series. That's another top. That's another series we could go into about conscious politics are non-ideological, not mainstream. Blah blah blah. Leftists are not immune to ideology. Enemy is unconsciousness, lack of development, ideology. Okay, in what way? This demonize the mainstream media.
I think Alice typed something in the chat. Would you like to talk about that, Alice?
Yes, I watched the video and I remember some of the points is really a good point for me. So one of them is the left completely support complete unrestricted abortion, which for him is very problematic, can be very problematic because he thinks that there should be to some limit the restricted abortion, but not unrestricted abortion. And he also says that it's kind of naive of the left to idealize the socialism and Marxism because they don't like capitalism, and they thought that if Marxism was implemented, it would be great. But Leo thinks that is also problematic. It can be. Don't naively believe that if you implement socialism, then you can get rid of the poor. But it could be that you have more problem of poverty than what we're having now. So that's the 2 points that stand out. He also said the police brutality was blown out of proportion. Yeah, and the left is too quick to call the right, kind of label them like racist and xenophobic. This thing, yeah, these are some points that that stood out in my mind.
Thank you for sharing, Alice. Chase, Nerdish, any thoughts? Maybe it was any thoughts on these, on what Alice said?
I have to agree with Alice and like what these leftists, you know, I agree. That's it. And if you have anything to say, Nerdish, feel free to do so.
I am. I'm still in the left basket here so far because I'm gonna. To me, even though I hate it, even saying this because it goes against what I need at the moment or what I think I need. I believe that a woman should have the choice in the matter, and there's the reason being is because um, I've just seen so many problems with pregnancies. Just I don't even need to go into any details. Um, I believe women should have an out if they want it. I'll just land there.
Thank you for that perspective. I do happen to agree that women should have the ability to do what they want with their bodies, and what really comes to front stage as the issue is the government intervention saying what you can or cannot do with your body. Like, if a person wants to be trans, that's okay with them, but like having children grow up and just like filling their minds with this messed up stuff, that's not okay with me. Like, if you turn 18, you can do what you want, but before that, that's pushing it.
And that comes from a guy that has been with two girls that can't have children, and now I don't have children, and I'm 40, and it feels too late. So it's kind of hard for me to even make that judgment, but I don't know, it still feels right to me.
All right, so wow, this has been a great discussion. It's already been an hour. I just wanted to say, any closing thoughts? Would you want us to do, because I don't think we covered all the points from this video because there's a lot. Would you want us to do like a part 3 next week and discuss this? Or, I mean, what do you
I
guys?
don't think so, but respect to Nerdish for showing up and giving his thoughts and opinions. Respect to Alice for also showing up and letting us know her thoughts. I think this was a great podcast so far, and if anyone has any closing thoughts, feel free to do so.
I would say that you should hold a room on the spiral thing because I'm unaware. I'm unaware, and it sounds like should be an interesting thing. So um, it's worth a listen because Brandon tried to frame it as Maslow's being a lower level of um, this spiral thing. So I'm interested.
Okay. It's also interesting because Leo from Actualize.org did do a series. Of course, I mean, then again, there's probably other sources that we could try to find on the internet. I guess to try and describe it better. To be honest with you, I'm really curious myself. How well. Maybe there's gaps that even Leo doesn't actually understand about spiral dynamics. Even though, but the thing is, yet the thing is with a lot of his videos, and you guys again bring up some great, great points. Part of the reason why Leo, tries to, well, yeah, let me read this comment. I never like Leo. Well, yeah, I mean, it's fine if you don't like actualize.org. You know, there's some people that like him. There's some people that think his videos do great work, and some people are just like, whatever. To each his own, right? So, but the whole, at least from this 2-part series so far, pretty much was just about Leo going on camera, talking for 6 hours, going through a lot of the, I guess the political views, of the left, and how there are gaps within the left, because he's coming at it more so, I guess, from like, a psychological point of view. But again, as we discussed for these 2 podcasts, a lot of generalizations. Thank you, Alice. See, there you go. Alice, you like him. Ivy, bleh. But really, Ivy, I really would like to. You should watch these videos, and I'd love to, hear your thoughts on all the things that Leo says you don't agree with, you think he's wrong about. And
Yes, if you disagree with Leo, we would love to hear that.
yeah, I mean, I think Ivy, I've seen you just talk before in many different rooms, and I think you have some great points to discuss. But it's okay. We're fine with you listening for now. Maybe we can discuss it some other time. So, all right, we've definitely gone like way over time. So, yeah, that's it. I'm sure in future podcasts or rooms we'll probably go over, spiral dynamics. We'll probably link it to Leo's video about it, and then offer, of course, our own take. We'll do some research, try to make it an interesting dialogue and discussion. So yeah, thank you everybody, and I guess that's it from my side. Chase, you have anything else you need to say?
Nothing else? Let's wrap it up.
Fine. Okay. You got Chase. You ready for me to do the countdown?
Countdown. Begin.
Great. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Thank you for this podcast, and have a great night,
Good night.
everybody.